Hello, welcome to this your channel of the better Eurofan. That's me. It seems that Spain was on the right track for better results at the competition by consolidating in a very short time its most recent national final, Benidorm Fest, betting for the Eurovision brand more than ever and especially since the Chanel effect. In fact, the disruptive and transgressive proposal presented by Nebulosa during last year's contest was intended to make a great impact and a good result, but in the end they did not manage to convince as expected, having to settle with the 22nd place in the final ranking. Even so, the country does not lose its mood, with an audience more and more interested into the contest, longing for a third victory that is still reluctant. Let's see now to the next artist that had the occasion of representing the Mediterranean nation in Basel. Here we go. For today's episode, I'm going to review the Spanish entry for Eurovision 2025, which has been represented by the single Melody with the song Esa Diva, which in English translates as That Diva. Before replying to the question of whom diva is she talking about, we will discover more about this multifaceted artist that now can add her participation at the contest to her track record. Without further delay, let's move on with the review. We start as usual reviewing her biography and career before leaving her Eurovision experience in Switzerland. Melody Ruiz Gutierrez, mostly well known as Melody, is a Spanish singer, songwriter, dancer, actress and mother coming from the town of Dos Hermanas and currently living in the city of Malaga located in southern Spain. She is raised in a family environment very linked to performing arts, especially by her father, as he was a singer and member of the band Los Guillos, often described as a sort of Spanish jazz vibe that will contribute to develop a huge interest for music and dance. Some show that she already choreographed the performances with her father at the age of 6, then later started singing, guitar, piano and performing studies, with which she demonstrated an enormous talent. By 2000, at the age of 9, she will be discovered by the rumba flamenca producer José Luis Cantero, mostly well known as El Fari, who got widely impressed with Melody's talent after watching a video of her singing and dancing, to the point that he will ask her to come to Madrid for some months to turn her into a musical artist. During the process, she will record and produce what it will be her debut studio album, which was officially released the following year. The lead single El Baile de Gorila will become a massive hit by topping the Spanish musical charts, being officially nominated as the summer song of that year and reaching high positions in France, United States and many Latin American countries, becoming very quickly in one of the most prestigious child artists of the Spanish musical scene. The album will also be a huge sales success, with which she even gets a nomination at Latin Grammy Awards as Best Children's Album the following year. In the mix of the sweet taste of success of her debut album, she will have her first promotional tour during 2002 by performing concerts in both Spain and abroad, visiting extensively most of Latin America as well as United States, Brazil, Australia, Japan and the United Kingdom, having made an appearance in Viña del Mar International Song Festival in Chile earlier that year. And back in Spain, she had a participation in an episode of the Spanish series Cuéntame Cómo Pasó, titled in English as Remember When, with which she will have her debut as an actress, having another appearance many years later being an adult. It will not take too long until the release of her second studio album in the middle of that same year, although it will not emulate the same impact as its predecessor. Then later, during 2003, after having received 2 nominations at Vivo Latin Music Awards for her debut studio album, she will release her third studio album, which also failed to emulate even her 2 first recordings, despite the fact that 2 singles from this album would reach high positions in the Spanish musical charts. And thereafter, in 2004, she releases her 4th studio album, with compositions more addressed to a younger audience, which achieved a moderate success in Spain. During these first years, she also has collaborated in other musical productions. Shortly before releasing her debut studio album, she participates in the charity album Hay que volver a empezar, which raised awareness about the domestic violence against women. She participates in 2003 in the musical production Ella Sin Magia, which is a compilation of Disney's princesses songs performed in Spanish, which sales were fully donated to foundations for health against drug addiction. And in 2004, she makes a collaboration with the Greek tenor Mario Frangoulis in one of the songs of the second studio album from the opera singer. But then, during 2005, Melody will completely disappear from the public scene, which would raise several rumors about her. And it is because, taking into account that since her beginning she was already a girl with a huge presence in different professional projects and being so high profile, it became quite strange for the majority of the people that she sneaked away from everything. An urban legend was spread during those years, alleging that Melody would have died in a plane accident without having any confirmation of that fact. And then another theory suggested that she had committed suicide after suffering depression, but it was discovered later that it was referred to another different person named Melody and not Melodia as her real name. All these rumors will be extended through time until Melody herself finally denied all of them after reappearing again during 2008 when she released her first studio album featuring tracks from Latin popular rumba flamenca, being also the first recording work in which she gets more involved as a songwriter in many tracks of the album, appreciating both her personal and vocal maturity. After a promotional tour which took her by many countries, she will have her first attempt to represent Spain at Eurovision the following year, by participating in the then national final organized by the Spanish public broadcaster named Eurovisión 2009 El Retorno. She will participate together with the contemporary dance group Los Vivancos with the song Amante de la Luna, with which they will advance to the final show, having been profiled as one of the big favorites since the beginning, but just after the first semi-final in which they compete, the controversy sparked, and it was because the guys from Los Vivancos decided to withdraw from the national final, alleging several failures with its production and organization, as well as the perception of a sexy focus towards Melody despite it was presented as a joint entry. We are talking about the dark time in the Spanish national finals in those years, so it is not strange at all for many. Despite the incident happened, Melody will decide to move forward with the entry by her own, looking in this case to another group of dancers for the final show. Many people would think that this incident would affect her initial favoritism, but the truth is that the voting results would draw a tie in the first place between her and the singer Soraya Arnaldas after getting the same scores. But after the latter one being awarded with the max points from the televote, she will end up selected as the Spanish representative that will attend the edition of that year in Moscow, Russia. After her participation in that national final, Melody was absent from the media spotlight for a couple of years, until 2012, where she would return to the musical scene with the release of a new single, which will be a snippet of what it will be her sixth studio album. Although the following year, in 2013, she will try her luck in television once again, initially with a participation as a guest artist in the first special season of the renowned talent show Tu Cara Me Suena, known as Your Face Sounds Familiar outside Spain. Mostly known as Tu Cara Más Solidaria, that could be translated as Your Most Solidary Face, with the goal of raising funds from the Spanish Red Cross and prevent evictions. She will end up placing as the runner-up at the end of the season, which would have had to become months later in one of the contestants of the third season of the already aforementioned talent show. During that season, she will also reach the final show likewise, placing as the runner-up once again behind the singer Edurne, who later ended up being the Spanish representative at Eurovision in 2015 during the edition held in Vienna, Austria. At the end of the season of Tu Cara Me Suena in 2014, she will put her efforts on establishing her own record label, with which she will release her sixth studio album that she was already preparing for some time ago, by presenting a much modern sound in comparison to all her previous productions. As part of that evolution she has been having, both personally and musically, with lyrics addressing more mature topics. Shortly after, in 2015, she will participate in other projects at the same time with her musical career. In one hand, she was the songwriter and performer of the song In My Mind, which will be part of the soundtrack of the Spanish film Ahora o Nunca, which in English translates as It's Now or Never. Curiously, being her very first song written in English, where she also had the chance to make her debut as a film actress by taking part of the plot of the film as an actress in a secondary role. On the other hand, in addition to her solo career, she will find a duo with her brother Eleazar named Melek 2, which they released a sole single both in Spanish and English, that didn't have much impact in the country's musical scene, however, so they decided to disband the duo sometime after. During the following years, while she was getting involved in many television projects as a host or as a jury, she will keep fairly active in the Spanish musical scene by releasing many singles independently in different musical genres, from Latin pop going through ballads to rumba flamenca. Curiously, in 2023, she releases her first EP, which is a set of songs of her hits reinterpreted in much modern versions with a live band. While it is her most recent production, it is the only musical work to date without having any unedited track after her latest studio album from almost a decade ago. Beyond her musical and televisual faces, Melody has been also involved in other activities throughout her adult life. She has been working as a model, participating in runways in both Spain and Latin America, being also the image for luxury fashion houses like Chanel, Dolce & Gabbana, Dior, Gucci or Versace. She has also done many charity and humanitarian work whenever she could, by her own or through participation in charity galas, collaborating for several non-governmental organizations that support many causes, like Famine, the fight against drug addiction, or the fight against domestic violence. Musically speaking, Melody has tried several musical genres in her musical career so far, as we have seen a little through her discography. Although if there are two musical genres that are mainly predominant in her musical work, these are Latin pop and rumba flamenca. On the other hand, she is also widely known for being a very good dancer. Faith said that she has naturally incorporated since her beginnings in all her live performances. In fact, it is quite normal to see her doing very complicated choreographies in her concerts with her dance crew, although it is also very common to see her improvise on stage, especially when she interacts with the audience, showcasing all her self-confidence in a very natural way, as it is typical from Andalusian artists. Melody will keep that same media profile she has been having in these last years by releasing more singles independently, some of them in collaboration with other Spanish and Latin American artists, participating on last year as a guest judge in the fourth season of the Spanish version of Drag Race. And more recently, she had in mind to attempt to represent Spain at the contest again, not only for having her rematch after being the runner-up in that national final of 2009, but because it was a dream to be accomplished for her since she was a child artist. Let's see then how she finally gets the chance of living the Eurovision experience on first hand. Keeping the strategy of these recent years, the Spanish public broadcaster will organize what it went to be the fourth edition of its most recent national final, Benidorm Fest, to select both the artists and the song that will represent the country in Switzerland. Shortly after the celebration of the grand final in Swedish lands, the submission period was open for the Spanish singers and songwriters who wanted to take part in the competition, closing it in mid-October of last year. After the deadline, it was known that nearly 1,000 proposals were received, being an absolute record by being the highest number since the national final is held. An expert panel will be in charge of selecting the 16 contestants plus 6 backups that will compete in the national final, making the announcement of the artists when it is competing songs in mid-November of last year, being a melody among the chosen ones, and releasing their entries in mid-December of last year. It was also announced that a songwriting camp will be held again after introducing it during the last edition, although this time it was not revealed if any of the selected entries were coming from that camp. For this edition, the format will feature some changes and novelties with the issuing of the competition rules by the broadcaster. First, the demoscopy jury introduced from the very first edition will be discarded, replacing it with a free voting through a mobile app allowing a single vote per user. In response to several complaints received from the audience due to the high voting costs both by phone and SMS, curiously being the most expensive ones in Europe, which was also reflected in the low figures received from the televote. And second, following the dynamic already implemented in the semi-final shows of the contest, a change will be made in the announcement of the qualifiers during the semi-finals, by only announcing the names of the artists that will advance to the final show, releasing the few results at the end of the competition. Initially, there was moderate expectation with Melody's entry in comparison with others that have received a wider favoritism, and especially taking into account that it was her second attempt after many years, but she remained cautious, suggesting to wait until watching the presentation of her live performance. Melody will make her first appearance in the second semi-final, casually closing the show where she unfortunately experienced issues with the sound production for a few seconds that affected her performance, not being able to hit the notes during the bridge of the song. But that, however, did not diminish her chance to get one of the 4 spots for the final show. Thereafter, during that same final show, which took place in early last February, being in charge of closing it once again and having fixed the sound failures that affected her in the semi-final. The voting results revealed that Melody will be the absolute favorite from the public, while she was the third most voted artist by the jury, earning the points needed to get the victory in the national final and gaining, after 2 attempts, the right of representing Spain on the main stage of Basel. After her win in the national final, Melody will reveal that she will perform some changes to the entry ahead of the contest, from the song to the staging, with a goal, according to herself, to make it more accessible to the international audience, just attempting to improve her possibilities of having a good result. For that, she will be working with British producers for the revamp of the track, while she started to promote her entry in many television shows, and the recording and production of the official music video was being made, that will be officially premiered in last mid-March. Mothers but brave and powerful. Now I'm going to analyze with full detail about this proposal with which she finally accomplishes her dream of attending the contest. Before commenting, it is to stand out that the song had 2 versions. The original one that was initially presented during Benidorm Fest had a production initially worked by the renowned Swedish producers and songwriters Joy Depp, Peter Boström and Thomas Gison, all of them widely known for writing several entries for the contest, for Sweden and for other participating countries. While the revamped one that was finally presented in Basel have emerged after Melody's victory in the national final, worked by a group of British producers, as I have mentioned before, and it is one of them going to analyze up next. The melody is an electropop track with elements from Rumba Flamenca, especially appreciated with the classic guitar and the castanets. The first verse begins with a more symphonic sound based in a strings in instrumentation until it changes with the chorus, switching to the electronic sound for the remaining of the track. For those who know Melody since her beginnings, or at least since her first attempt to represent Spain at the contest, it is so clear that she has got talent vocally speaking, and it was not the exception in this case, showcasing a lot of versatility and strength throughout the track, standing out in particular a vocal extravaganza moment she does right before the last chorus, representing the peak point to let her finish the track with forcefulness. It is also noticed the incorporation of backing vocals during the chorus in comparison with the original version that does not have them, which help especially to give much more boost to the track. The lyrics have been written fully in Spanish by herself together with the Spanish songwriter Alberto Fuentes Lorite, which besides of being part of the working team for many of her musical productions, he has worked as a songwriter for other Spanish artists, standing out in particular to Rosa Lopez, who was the Spanish representative for the contest in 2002 during the edition held in Tallinn, Estonia, and the famous female duo Azúcar Moreno, who did it as well in 1990 during the edition held in Zagreb in the then former Yugoslavia, and that participated many years later in the very first edition of Benidorm Fest from 3 years ago with the song Postureo that was composed by him. About the contest behind it, Melody has commented that the song tells a personal story of growth and learning, rejecting in this case the superficiality or the contemptuous attitudes with which traditional divas are often associated, opting instead for a more positive and empowered version, emphasizing as well that a diva is not only a famous person being at the top, but that divas are all those people that work hard every day to be a better version of themselves and stay true to themselves. At the same time, the track intends to be a kind of gratitude to all the people that have followed her since her beginnings as a child artist until becoming the established artist she is nowadays. All this can be easily perceived after reading the lyrics more in detail, emphasizing two phrases in particular. In the first verse, when she says "Fui del mundo la rumbera," which in English translates as "I was the only world rumbera," it is a very clear reference to the song El Baile de Gorila, her very first massive hit as a child artist. And then in the final chorus, when she says "Ya verán, esa diva soy yo," which in English translates as "You will see, that diva is me," it represents the reaffirmation of her own personal story that she intended to summary in this song. Even taking into account the fact that it is an autobiographical story, the message that intends to be transmitted with the track, according to herself, it is that being a diva is not about being famous or disdaining other people, but being true to yourself as a person, keeping a resilient attitude and sharing all your talent with passion and freedom. Having seen more about this powerful track, let's see now how Melody has reflected its context through the official music video. The plot begins with the picture in black and white initially, where Melody will be arriving in a limousine with a large group of photographers taking all the possible pictures of her, somehow portraying the situation as those classic moments in which a very famous person, the entitled traditional diva, makes its arrival to a place. She starts to perform the first verse still inside the limousine, while the bursts of camera flashes continue until just before getting to the first chorus she gets out of the limousine. The performance moves on with the first chorus, singing Melody wearing an elegant dress and making different poses for the cameras of the photographers that are still surrounding her, until there is a moment when she leaves them behind to continue her way. After taking out the cake and getting out from a curtain, the picture is now in full color and she reappears again off a stage wearing a black sling outfit, joined by a group of female dancers with which she performs a very energetic choreography that is captured both with wild and fun about shots. With the second verse, there are different alternate shots of Melody with the photographers, other ones of her in a dressing room with the female dancers seen before, where you can see that they are getting ready, trying on outfits and putting on makeup before entering on stage, as well as additional ones of her wearing an outfit with many gemstones. From all these shots, I'm remarking this one in particular because for me it has that sublime and even iconic touch in some way, portraying herself as the diva that she is and that she narrates herself. By the second chorus, it goes back again onto the stage previously seen with melody and the dancers, noticing in this case that the group of dancers is bigger, doing initially a choreographed dance. And getting back later to the energetic and danceable dynamic, which alternate with general shots of her, standing at a moment shortly after in which one of the male dancers gives her a hand with melody holding it, giving the impression that she will dance with him initially, but there is instead a change of scenery, seeing melody in another different stage, wearing another sling outfit with gemstones, joined by the first group of female dancers from before without stopping on doing the choreography with them. During the bridge, there is a lighting set that creates certain strobe effect while the different choreographies continue, sometimes seeing them in shots at slow motion, alternating with close-ups of her posing for the camera, but especially during the peak moment of the performance when she has her vocal extravaganza. The energetic and danceable dynamic is kept during the final chorus, being joined by all the dancers until the performance finishes with melody doing a complicated pirouette with one of the dancers while the rest finishes the choreography. At the end of the music video, there is a shot in the dressing room of before, where now her name and the song's title appear written in the mirror with a red lipstick, implying that melody will have written it before taking her stuff and leaving the dressing room. Prior to the official music video, she already had the chance to present her proposal during her time in the national final. Let's see then with more detail how was the presentation of her live performance during her participation at Benidorm Fest with the original version of the track. Recalling the staging in the national final, it begins with melody in a swing that is hanging on the ceiling of the venue with many spotlights are lighting up her from up there. She initially wears a black dress with a large cape that gets to the stage floor and a coat style hat. In some moment, she takes off that hat to throw it aside, and just before starting the first chorus, she leans back, giving the impression that she has fell from the swing. And then later, she is seen on the stage floor with a shot from above, together with the male dancers that make a choreography from the floor as well, while some torn branches start to appear in the leg strings of the stage floor. One of them lifts her up, and none of them approach to the front of the stage where they take off from melody the remaining of the black dress to reveal a slate outfit with gemstones, performing a choreography with them. With the second verse now appears a prod at the bottom of the stage that resembles a comb, from where she continues the performance while the art spinning shows towards her in that prod, switching later to wide shots of her with the male dancers while more torn branches are still appearing in the visual graphics. The beginning of the second chorus in terms of the choreography of melody with the male dancers is much more striking, as she first gives a full spin, then they climb her to the shoulder of one of the male dancers. She leans her body back out from that while she is held by the rest of the male dancers. She gives 3 more spins in the shoulder of the male dancer until they tear her down again. All this to later get to the front of the stage to continue with the choreography while the torn branches turn fuchsia and there are smoke columns. During the bridge, they perform another different choreography where it comes to attention to the spinning pirouette done by melody with one of the male dancers that is followed by the camera, giving an interesting visual effect. And shortly after, while the male dancers are still dancing, melody gets back to the come to her vocal extravaganza moment from there. During the final chorus, she continues with her performance from there while spark columns appear from the comb. In some moments, she leans down to grab all of her hair to do the choreography that is a very common gesture from her during her concerts. And shortly after, the male dancers take her to the center of the stage, doing from that pirouette that we will see thereafter with the music video, closing the performance with more sparkles. There is no doubt that it was the most astonishing performance of the night, closing the show in a quite tremendous way. And that's because she literally does everything. She gets on the swing, she falls down, there is an outfit reveal, they lift her up, they take her down, they lean her back, they take her to one side to another. She makes pirouettes and dances a lot, all this without losing her breath or get out of tune in any instant. But later she will have a contender with the Polish singer Justyna Stenkowska that also has done everything on stage. After watching a performance like this, it was definitely proof how professional and how experienced is Melody when she gets up on a stage. In the end, she has been doing it for her entire life. Initially, it didn't have very clear if that would be translated in a good result, taking into account that there were other entries that also caught a lot of attention and that were enjoying some favoritism as well. But then this was evidenced with the result achieved by Melody after the voting breakdown, especially from the televote, which will help her to consolidate her victory in the national final. Thereafter, and matching with the beginning of the promotional tour the Diva experienced since the release of the official music video, Melody was presenting her proposal live in technically all the Eurovision parties of the season, including the one held in Madrid where she was the hostess, having an almost flawless vocal performance. In this sense, the staging will be more simplified, being heard joining in all the occasions by the group of dancers that will attend the contest with her, as there were changes in some of the original male dancers, keeping most of the choreography seen in the music video or the visual graphics seen in the national final, and in some cases doing the now classic pirouette at the very end. For the staging in Basel, we know beforehand that many things will change compared to what we saw in the national final, although there was the question on which details of the performance will change and which ones will be cut. There was a lot of discussion on this, as the ones who prefer both the original version of the track and the original staging from the national final were in doubt of if it could be more likewise or even more impactful. Now, according to what we could see in the first rehearsals, there were parts that remain and other parts that change. The black dress with the large tail and the Cordovan style hat will be kept, although not from the swing like in the national final. There is a red curtain during a part of the performance. The gun prop will be changed for an elevated marble prop with stairs on both sides, while Melody's main outfit will be improved compared to the one seen in the music video. In the other hand, the visual graphics will be entirely changed. The lighting was mostly white, and it seems that there is a spark rain towards the end of the performance, taking into account that is seen in the moment during the final pirouette. Watching her live performance in the grand final, it begins with Melody in a close-up in a dark and light effect and while she performs the first verse, seeing the first outfit worn by her. In some moment there are some spotlights on her until just before the first chorus the dancers appear below the tail of that dress. Thereafter, she is seen getting down from a platform, keeping the close-up towards her while she takes off the hat to throw it aside. And shortly after, the shot changes, seeing the dancers in front of the curtain, which seemed to be red initially, but it is purple if you watch it with more detail. And then Melody appears from behind the curtain to join the dancers in the choreographies. For the second verse, the dancers disappear for a few instants, while Melody continues with the performance, reaching little by little to the front of the stage, standing out for instance a shot from above where she is seen with animations of leg squares in perspective. With the second chorus, the female dancers reappear while performing choreographed figures with Melody that returns little by little to the bottom of the stage until the curtain falls down, then appearing the remaining dancers and unveiling the central prop, and the visual graphics are showing some marble frames in perspective. All this while both the choreography and the lighting are much more energetic. By the bridge there is more dynamic lighting set and with certain sharp effect like in the music video, the Melody goes up the stairs to the top of the central prop to have the vocal extravaganza moment from there, making the marble frames to break in multiple pieces, maybe by giving the impression that she brought them with the power of her voice. For the last chorus, the sparkling scene during the rehearsals finally appear, while the dancers continue with the different choreographies until one of them goes up to her melody, which throws the microphone to the air to do the final pirouette that closes the performance. And if it was not enough, right after standing up again, she moves her hair forward to do the choreography like the one she done in the national final. I have seen the performance quite good and vocally she was flawless, although there were parts that confused me. First, I did not understand the fact that the dances appear below the tail of Melody's dress. I could intuit that it was a representation of the traditional Viva at the people that are below her. I guess that the part of the curtain did not turn out as expected. I think that Melody must have appeared from behind the curtain just in the most hectic part of the chorus, which makes me think that she had issues to take off the black dress. And then I did not understand the part of the marble frames. Honestly, I do not have any clue on what we're exactly representing. Even so, despite all that, she defended the proposal and made her performance her best the way she could. Until the moment of the body results reveal, I thought that she could get a modest result at least, but we were not prepared for the final outcome. The jury initially ranked her 21st, waiting to see how many points we'll get for the public, but then at the decisive moment, she will receive only a few points from the televote, which will leave her in the 24th place of the final ranking. It was hard to believe that such well-crafted proposal during all these months would end up being so underrated by the audience, taking into account that she had a quite good performance during all the season. However, days after the contest, there was a huge controversy, mainly because of the actions and comments from Melody after her return to Spain from Basel. First, she left by herself without the delegation by returning straight to her city of residence, something that was perceived strange and quite striking initially, but it was later known that it was something previously agreed both with her local label and the broadcaster. She alleged that she did it to take a short break after all the rush of peace last month and to be with his son, which did not saw for a long time, which is comprehensible from a certain point of view as it is still a baby, and that she will organize a press conference too later to say it all. The press conference took place in late last May, and once she started to speak, everything exploded. An outburst of criticism towards the delegation, allegations that she was not allowed to make crucial decisions about the staging that was presented in Basel, that she was not fully convinced with the revamped version, despite she already said that she would change it since the very first moment that won the national final. A lack of socio-political stand that made her look like she was in a bubble isolated from the reality that is happening in the world right now, alleging that she had forbidden from doing so by contract, which was later denied by the broadcaster itself later, to finally end up in compliments to the visible faces of the delegation that she criticized before. If there was discomfort beforehand by the result that Melody ended up achieving in the contest, her stand during the press conference ended up annoying to the broadcaster and causing bewilderment in a lot of people. Making a summary of all the comments, the Spanish entry for this year leaves me with mixed feelings, and I say it especially for many reasons. I supported her proposal since the very beginning. I always thought that it was one of the most well-crafted ones presented during Benidorm Fest, with high chances to stand out in Europe. The revamp of the track and the changes of the staging did not convince me at all, although the stacks in the musical platform seemed to be in her favor. Melody worked tirelessly and fought tooth and nail for the proposal, but in the end, what happened ultimately is right now an undeniable fact. The proposal presented did not work, unfortunately, and the saddest thing was that happened with her statements in the subsequent press conference. She could be somewhat right in many of her comments, but that lack of self-criticism played down on her a lot, portraying herself with an image of an arrogant person and a bad loser, contradicting especially with the message that she intended to transmit with her song. And the truth is that it disappointed me a lot. In fact, since then I have not played the song again, because right now it represents a contradiction of what she is and what she says she is. The final result has represented another flaw for Spain, which goes back to the bottom positions of the ranking, reliving the ghosts from those years that were seen to not coming back. Actually, it is the lowest position achieved with an entry since Berliner Fest is organized, giving the impression that the Chanel effect achieved 3 years ago was just a mirage. Maybe this could be a sign up for a workaround in the song selection criteria, but time will tell if they learn from what happened this time and there is a turning point with regard to improve the national final. Shortly after her time in the contest, Melody will release a new single, while she has continued with her promotional tour by Spain and abroad, which will last until the end of the year, where it is predicted that she will take a long break after to focus on raising his son until she feels in condition, both personally and professionally, to return back to the stages and keep creating new music. This has been the Spanish proposal of this year for the contest. What do you think of? Was it one of your favorites for this year, or it did not get your attention instead? Come on and let me know in the comments down below. I'm sure the discussion will be a hot and interesting topic. And this is it for today's episode. If this video has been of your taste, then take a few moments to give a like by helping me with your support for this content to be reached among much more people. Subscribe to my channel and enable notifications by hitting the bell and follow me through my social media. Take care and see you in the next episode. Bye bye.